Welcome to the New England Endurance Podcast, where we celebrate the vibrant endurance community of New England. I'm your host, Eric Schenker, along with my co-host, Art Trapotis.
Hey there.
How you doing today, Art?
Awesome.
Well, I'm glad you're awesome. We're feeling lucky to have some pretty awesome guests in the studio today to discuss the incredible running endurance community of New England. In studio, we have Dan Donato, the founder of the Notch Run Club, and Jordan Kinley, the coach of the Notch Run Club for the USATF New England Grand Prix. Do not worry. We will discuss what that is. Again, no acronyms. This is a hard lesson that I've learned. But Jordan also is the running brand manager for Karhu, a Finnish running company based out of Marblehead, Massachusetts. And I think a lot of people will get introduced to the brand today, which will be pretty cool. So we're diving into the rich, expansive run club world of New England, what makes Notch unique, and answer the age-old question, is beer a good source of carbs for runners?
100%.
100% good. So Dan, Jordan, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's good to be here.
I'm really excited for today because we're having some runners come into the podcast.
And what did I say on the first podcast?
We're not a cycling podcast.
We are not a cycling podcast. So, and I think it's an important, obviously a really important part of the endurance community. So Art, I'll let you ask the first burning question.
Yeah, I mean, as a founder and president of a cycling team, I'm really curious. I want to learn about the run team world and see, what I can learn and what we can learn to make our cycling experience better. But first, could each of you share a little bit about your personal journey in the world of endurance sports and sort of what led you to Notch?
Sure. I haven't been at it as long as some other folks. I, kind of ran in high school like a lot of people did. And then really took a break for 10 years and did some other things. I played rugby on a men's club and in college and things like that. And I was still running, on the side to stay in shape. And then in 2014, I wanted to find my way into the Boston Marathon, but at the time, didn't think that I was really capable of qualifying. And I was doing this because my grandfather had run the marathon many times and placed as high as fifth. He was a really great runner.
And what was his name?
His name was Paul Donato.
Paul Donato.
This was back in the 30s and the 40s. So I, wrote this letter, U.S. mail, sent it to BAA and was like, this is what I want to do. Do you think you could give me a bib? And they did.
That's incredible.
And
I don't think that happens anymore.
I don't think it does either. I was really lucky, and I'm really grateful to them because it kind of set me on this path. I, trained really for the first time to be able to do that, and did it successfully, and then just started feeling I was hooked, right after that, and wanted to see what else I could do. And so, the running career kind of blossomed from there.
Have you always been from New England?
Yeah, I was born in Lynn and have lived in the area for a long time.
Great. Jordan, what about your journey?
I started running as a 9-10-year-old out in California. I'm not a native of New England, but I've lived here now over a decade. Classic story of being a runner and a soccer player. Ultimately had to pick one sport, as cross country in the fall was at the same time, and found myself falling in love with running, and ultimately I was a little bit better at it. So ran all throughout high school, both cross country and track and field. Ran in college at Brown University. Again, also track and field, indoor track, outdoor track, and have ventured on out to the roads and the trails since then. Moved up in distance, and I don't race that much anymore. Racing is not my passion. I don't find myself as competitive as I once was, but I enjoy seeing others put in hard work and get better each week, get better each month with every race. And so I started writing the training. I always find it weird being called coach. That sounds like someone of authority and importance. That's not always what I'm about. And so I write the training for the Notch team, and I go out, I hold the stopwatch, I run with the leaders, I push people to get better each workout, and been doing it for a couple of years, and it's just great to see everybody achieve Boston Marathon success and qualifications as the team gets better. It's been a fun experience.
Is the training customized per runner, or is it as a group you sort of follow one big plan?
It's generally as a group, as the USATF New England Series was mentioned earlier in the intro.
And what does that mean?
So it's the USA Track and Field New England Grand Prix Series, which is 7 road races ranging in distance from the 5K on up to the half marathon. Previously, there was a marathon in the Grand Prix, but they removed it and made it its own standalone event. And
this year they've actually added a mile, so they did away with the marathon, and now we'll be racing a road mile in July for the first time, which is kind of exciting.
So the training's geared towards the next race on the calendar for the race series. So this weekend we actually have a 4-miler. You can think of it as like a long 5K, and the training has been geared specifically for that race. The race after that will be a half marathon, so we'll go up in distance and we'll do longer workouts. And so the training is not individualized, but for the group that's collectively going to be racing the USATF series.
And is it club against club, right? So who is Notch competing with?
Yeah, so the New England Grand Prix series is probably one of the most competitive USATFs, I think, in the country.
Well, again,
Makes
we are
sense.
here today to celebrate that fact.
So Notch, races against the BAA, Tracksmith, Greater Boston Track Club, clubs that have been around for decades. Our team's relatively new, but we, bang it out with some of the best teams in the country. And that's just a small sample size of who's out there. But there are, on any given weekend, 20 teams lining up to race to see who has the fastest 5 guys, top 5 women, masters, 40 plus, grandmasters, all the way on up to I guess 70 plus.
Wow. So I think I would say we've started at the top end here, right? Where we're starting to talk about this Grand Prix, more elite, high speed team out of Notch. I'd love to know a little bit or maybe rewind and understand, hey, how did Notch come to be, Dan? And, I think you'll answer the question, but the rhetorical question is Notch just for fast, super elite people to run?
Yeah, sure. So we started showing up to races as a sort of Notch team, I think back in 2011. And that's really all we were doing at the time. There was a series in Cambridge that a lot of folks love called the C5K series. And we'd show up, we'd have a couple hundred people on the team. We'd run it, but we were kind of, beer focused at that time. And in 2016, I think, Notch opened up their first brick and mortar brewery and tap room in Salem. And they knew that I ran on the race team. They knew that I was, into marketing and my professional life. And so they approached me and said, hey, what do you think about a club? Could we make this thing more real? Could we have, would people be interested in coming and running once a week and then having some beers? And that was all I needed to hear. So they were willing to give us at that time, just the space to use kind of as our own, as a sort of clubhouse. And right from the jump, I think the first run in 2016, we had 35 people show up out of nowhere, and it was a big hit. And that has continued. We now have 2 locations. There's one in Brighton and there's one in Salem. And we, on a nice summer night, could have 110 people show up and just, enjoy that 5K. It's very social. It's very conversational, and then have a few beverages afterwards. So, the answer is no. The team, the club is not really just for fast people, but there is a sort of like dual approach. Part of the club, we call it the club, is the more social aspect. You can show up to any of those social runs. It's free. You don't have to register. Just come on by. And then we do have the racing team, and the racing team even is not just for quote unquote fast people, but it is for people who want to see how fast they can get, whatever that means for them. So it doesn't matter if you're starting with a 16-minute 5K or a 40-minute 5K. The only thing we ask for that racing team component is that you're committing to showing up to the races, doing what you can do, and do some of that training. We do train as a group, but a lot of people, we love to be pro runners, but we're not. We have families, we have jobs. So a lot of that training can get done on your own.
Do you have set workouts each day of the week?
We generally have one midweek workout, which happens on either Wednesday or Thursday, and then a weekend workout on Saturday or Sunday. And other people, supplement with more, but that's what Jordan writes for us.
But that's when you say workout, can we distinguish between a fun run? Hey, are you meeting Tuesdays and Thursdays for that fun 5K and beers, and then the other days are specific workouts? So I think that's a little bit of something to distinguish between.
Yeah. So the workout actually piggybacks on the social run. So the social run, and I'll use Salem as an example, happens at 6:30 every Wednesday, no matter what. A lot of folks will meet up at 5:15 or so, do a quick warm up, do that workout, and then they'll still join that social run, but that's their kind of cool down.
Makes sense. So when does that? Is it just Wednesdays? Meters? What is meters for leaders?
Yeah, our tagline, meters for leaders.
Leaders. I like it.
In Salem, that happens on Wednesday and Sunday, and in Brighton, it's Thursday and Saturday.
Okay, and the times again that happens?
Brighton, 7:00 Thursday. It's 6:30 on Wednesday in Salem, and then the weekend runs are 11:30 a.m.
And is it happening year round?
Year round, yeah.
And
Awesome.
Are you getting
Rain or
collegiates?
shine, snow. I mean, we're out there every Wednesday, every Thursday, and Brighton on Saturday, Salem on Sunday. I think
Yep.
I think we showed up on Christmas
Yeah.
a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That's hardcore.
And that was, props to the Notch staff and Chris Loring, the Notch's owner. I think he was pouring beers himself on Christmas Day to refuel us.
It's a miracle.
This is sounding like my type of running club. Are you getting a range of ages, collegiates to masters athletes, or what's the typical age range folks are joining?
I'd say mid-20s to, mid-70s is probably where we're at. I think it probably skews a little bit more toward, late 20s, early 30s when people join up. And I think part of that is just where we are located. I think folks who are, immediately post-collegiate are more likely to kind of be in the city, and there are, a ton of run clubs in the city to join. So people kind of discover us when they head out toward the suburbs too.
Nice. And Dan, how are you? I'm a new person to Salem. I want to come out to this run club. How are you making that am I going to show up and people are going to be like, come on in, or am I going to get the cold shoulder? Like, what's that process look like for somebody that wants to start running with Notch?
Well, if they reach out to us ahead of time, and a lot of people do through the website or through social, I can kind of give them an idea of what to expect and introduce myself, and I ask them to, come find me and we can chat before the run. But it's a really welcoming group of people. I think because we've all been there recently and, had our first run. But they'll show up, they put their name on a little sheet just so we can keep track of how many runs they've been to. We provide swag, based on you've been here for 10 runs, you get a buff. You've been here for 50 runs, you get a t-shirt, stuff like that. So we keep track of that.
What about 250 runs?
250 runs, you get your name up on the beer menu. And at 500, which we haven't gotten to
for
yet.
real.
Yeah, for real.
That's cool.
And we've had what, 5 or 6?
Yeah.
Make
Are
it
you
250?
telling me that there could be an Eric Schenker Pale Ale?
I'm telling you that if Eric starts this week, about 5 years from now, there could be an Eric Schenker Pale Ale.
Yeah, because it's only once or twice a week, right? So you gotta do it, but it probably won't happen in this lifetime. But I think that's a great little nugget, right? That Notch does and makes it unique, and I'm sure people aspire to get that or to get that swag, and it's a little bit of badge of honor.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got one guy he came to the first run in 2016, and he's missed 3 runs
That's crazy.
in that entire time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Just road, or are you guys doing trail? Anything else like that?
We're definitely primarily road, and I think as we grow, we'll continue to expand into other types of running. There's a lot of interest from our men and women in doing the cross country Grand Prix in the fall. And
What's that about, that event?
So that's similar to the road Grand Prix in that it's a series of races at different distances. It happens in the fall, but it's on gravel, dirt roads, things like that. Franklin Park is a really sort of iconic course that is run quite a bit. So there is a lot of interest in that. But right now there's only so many races we can do, and we're pretty focused on road. But I foresee that being in our future. There are a lot of people interested in. There's a mountain series that you could be a part of.
We also do the Lynn Woods Relay, which takes place over the summer, and we put probably 4 or 5 teams together. It's a team of 4. I think each leg is 2.5 miles, and that's in Lynn Woods, which is not super technical terrain, but it's on dirt, and it's hilly, and it's a competitive loop. So
From a mountain bike perspective, Lynn Woods is very technical. Lots of steep drops and sessioning going on, but we won't get into that.
This is the running episode for today, Art. So in the cycling community, though, what is great is there are a lot of known rides, and you can come from any club and jump in and into one of those rides. Is this like the Jets and the Sharks from West Side Story? Like you don't show up to a Notch run if you're from Wicked, and the Notch folks don't go to the Wicked Club or Pioneers, or do you get people from other clubs coming up to do some meters for leaders?
We absolutely get people from other clubs. It's totally open. We frequently have people coming from Somerville Roadrunners, Central Mass Striders, Tracksmith, some Battle Road folks have stopped by. It's very open. You should be prepared to get the hard sell and why you might want to run for Notch when you're there. But there's no animosity at all. It's a good time.
That's great. I think what's interesting for me, Dan, is you just sort of rambled off a bunch of clubs. Like, do you guys? I didn't prepare, but do we have any sense of how many run clubs are in New England?
So we do have a sense for the clubs that have created teams within that governing body, USATF, and compete in that series. I think it's something like 30, maybe 35. But I don't have a sense as to how many more informal clubs are out there. It could be hundreds. But there are a lot.
I think that the point there, right, is that if you're in Maine or you're in Vermont or you're in New Hampshire and you're thinking about, oh boy, that sounds like a lot of fun, chances are there's a run club near you, and you just have to dig them out. Is there a resource or a place that they could look, or is it just a Google search run clubs near me? I'm just spitballing.
I think just Google search and go down to your local running store. That helps. They'll have an idea of when and where people are running. They'll point you in the right direction, but there's no one great source for it.
Yeah, but that's a good point too, right? A lot of those run stores themselves have organized runs that are happening, and I imagine a lot of Notch people are doing the Tuesday night run, perhaps with a running store, and vice versa. And that's a good place to meet new folks.
So Jordan, I'm a workout junkie, and you're the coach of Notch. What's one of your favorite go-to workouts for the team?
One that I started doing, I think last season, is it's a borrowed workout from Scott Simmons, who is a great coach and has coached Olympians. And I spent some time in Charlotte and would do this with his athletes. And it's 20 by 400 off of a 2-minute interval.
So 20 by 400 meters?
20 by 400 meters off of a 2-minute interval. So if you run 75, which is 5-minute pace, 1:15 for 400, 75 seconds, you would get 45 seconds rest. If you run 85 seconds, That's 540 pace. You would only get 35 seconds rest, but did my math correctly. If you run 60 seconds, which is 4-minute pace that you're flying, you get a full minute.
That's my
rest.
pace, just to be clear. I like the extra rest.
So
that's why I run the 4-minute pace.
It's right. So it's essentially 40 minutes of running. You're going to do 2400s during that time. And what's nice is that everybody will start the interval at the same time. You'll finish not all together, but you get to regroup and help your other teammates out.
And are we doing that at our 5K or 10K pace?
You'll generally do that at your 5K pace, yes.
Nice. And is there a workout that folks absolutely dread that you like to issue?
I think anything that is long aerobic intervals. So we might do 4 by 10 minutes at half marathon pace with a 2-minute jog. I think a couple of years ago, I think I did 45 minutes straight, but it was cutting down from half marathon pace to 10K pace. So
reverse splits.
Yeah. So say your half marathon pace is just for a nice round number, 6 minutes, which is roughly 118 half marathon. You're gonna run the first couple miles at 6 minutes, and then you're gradually gonna get faster. 5:55s, 5:50s, 5:45s. Can you finish that workout closer to 5:35 or 5:30? So over the it's a slow grind. You get a burn in there, and just being able to sustain the effort for 45 minutes is very challenging.
What would be that example if someone was running their half marathon at a 9-minute pace?
Well, you
The
start out.
example would be you're not on the Grand Prix team.
No, you start out at 9 minutes and you just work your way down to maybe 8 minutes over that.
That's
over
more
that
my
span.
pace.
And I do
Okay.
want to reiterate, right? Like what we're talking about now is that sort of more elevated training for that sort of team, that higher end team at Notch. When we're doing the Wednesday night 5K, we're out there running at
Any pace. 11,
Yeah,
12,
you're just having a
13-minute pace.
you're just
conversation with
having a
someone.
conversational pace.
Yeah.
You group up with someone that you came to the brewery with, and you just go out, have a fun 5K and have a chat.
And I want to, I think, emphasize that the paces that Jordan is mentioning are for, some of the top or mid groups. There are people who are, their half marathon paces is 10 minutes or higher. And they're welcome because, again, there's no standard to make this team. It's just, do you want to commit to doing something hard?
Mm-hmm. Dan, one of the questions that has come up almost in every conversation that we've had is inclusivity, right? Specifically about gender inclusivity. So do you have a number? Is it 50-50? Is it skewed more male, female? Any sense on that on the club?
Yeah, so the club, the large, kind of social all-inclusive club, I think is pretty evenly split, 50-50, male, female. The racing team is probably skewed more like 60-40, 60% guys, 40% women. Although it's funny, our women outperform the guys at every single race. Our women's team is incredible. And the guys are always trying to catch up.
That's great. But that's great to hear on the larger club as a whole that you're going to find a welcoming group no matter what. Sounds like varying ages, men, women, what have you, that are all going to be excited to have you join. Especially, I like the fact that if people are trying to sell other people that join or that show up to say, hey, come join our club, I think that's a pretty good sign, right, for a club that this is a fun place to be, and the more the merrier. What's your, you as the founder, what is your long-term vision for the Notch Club?
Well, I think I've got a few things that I want to accomplish, but one of them is to create something that can be sustained into the long term. And I think one of the strengths that Notch has going for it is that kind of social aspect, and it's a recognition that shared traumatic experiences can create really, really strong bonds. And so getting people to get outside their comfort zone and do that together really creates a lot of camaraderie. And I think you see that kind of shared traumatic experience example in a lot of, you see it in the military, you can see it in people talk about their frat or sorority days. And, if you think about someone you would describe as your best friend, a lot of people would go all the way back to high school, even though that time in your life is really brief. Adolescent years are traumatic for just about everybody. So you end up with these really strong bonds. And so I think building that into the team is one thing that's really important to me. And we are also trying to remove barriers that might prevent people from training and or competing. One example of something that we started doing last year is to offer childcare during all of our races. And so, offer to men, women, whoever, anybody with a child. If you can make it to the race, we'll provide, babysitters to watch the kids during the warm up, during the race, after the race.
That's
huge.
That's a nugget right there. I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
So you pay for a babysitter?
Yeah. Or usually multiple
babysitters.
Yeah. Wow. That's really cool.
But it's a great use of funds. And I have to credit Kat Vassallo with that idea. We had both run a beer mile, I think 4 years ago. And
what is a beer mile? Sorry.
What is a beer mile? Oh boy. Jordan, take this.
All right. So you crack a beer, run a lap, do it 3 more times. So
on a track. So
on
a
a track
is 400, 4 times.
Crack a beer, drink it, run a lap.
Do that 3 more times. So now you've drank 4 beers and you've run 4 laps, covered a mile. So whoever can do that the fastest is the beer mile champ.
What's the fastest you've seen?
However, if you
can't keep the beer down,
you have to do an extra lap. You don't have to drink an extra beer, but you have to drink. You have to run an extra lap.
I don't recommend this for keep it tight on the roads with the bikes. This is on a track, but I can see your wheels. I can see the wheels spinning in your head. But there are beer miles, donut miles. Those are the 2.
Oh yeah, chocolate milk mile.
We had a
pizza mile.
Yeah.
So I interrupted you with your story about the beer mile.
I just wanted to give proper credit to Kat. We were chatting after one of these beer miles, and I was, I guess asking her how we could allow more women to come out, because it seemed like it was problematic. It was difficult for a lot of our women teammates to make it to races. And she said, well, a lot of it's childcare, and there's, even if they have childcare, there's sort of guilt that might come along with leaving children at home and going to a race and doing that for yourself. And so now we bring the kids to races.
Wow, brilliant.
Provide some care.
So sorry, to clarify, are these races that Notch is organizing, or this is if you're on the Notch team and we're going as a group to a race?
It's the latter. It's the USATF series. So for those 7 races, we're covering the kids.
Wow. Really, really cool. And kids, Dan, do you have kids?
Yep. I've got a 10-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter.
Jordan?
I do. I have a 9-year-old son and a 13-month-old daughter.
Oh boy, yeah. Aspiring runners, all, or?
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so.
It's a mix. My daughter's into running. My son is playing basketball at the moment.
Yeah, great. Karhu, Jordan, a little bit about you. You work at Karhu. You want to give us a little snippet onto that brand?
Yeah, I'm the brand manager at Karhu, which is a Finnish running brand, Finnish in heritage. We make performance running and walking shoes. We also do a collection of lifestyle sneakers and casual apparel. It's based here on the North Shore and in the Netherlands. Actually, Eric and I used to work there together many moons ago. But the brand, I do a little bit of everything for the brand. A little bit of product development, marketing, events, anything that has to do with the running category, I sort of oversee.
Last, sort of dive into some of the last questions. What are the favorite races for you guys, or favorite events in New England specifically? Sort of maybe things that you're doing as a group with Notch or individually?
Well, I think the Boston Marathon has to be mentioned, for highlighting New England endurance sports. The Boston Marathon is the gold standard. However, there are dozens of other races in New England that are, fantastic. There's some local ones in Salem. Miles Over the Moon is a great one.
I went out to run the Boilermaker in Utica, New York last summer.
Sorry, gonna edit. Make a note here. We're gonna edit that out. So
it's not New England. We can.
And it was terrible, so I came back.
Sorry, I didn't let you finish. On the way to driving to Utica, New York, I realized there were so many other races in New England that you wanted to do.
That's exactly right. And the first one that comes to mind is a race that Gary Allen has put together in Millinocket, Maine. That is an area that I was already in love with. I love hiking in the Baxter State Park area, hiking Katahdin. And he created a free marathon, the Millinocket Marathon, to support the community up there. I think the community has been going through some tough times. It was kind of a paper mill town. And he's had great success with it. There are thousands of runners that go out to this thing, and it's a super fun time. The community supports it in a big way. It's been great.
Nice.
So I'd have to list that one.
I've been up there a few times, whitewater rafting and hiking at Baxter, and there's not much going on there. So I'm excited to hear that someone's put on an event
For free.
For free. The idea is that there's no
Donation-based
registration cost, but then you're going to drop some money when you're there. They do like a craft fair at the expo, and people are selling the things they've made, and you're staying in their homes that they're Airbnb-ing for the weekend. So there's a lot of money that gets put into the town.
I think that's a great idea. I really like that concept, and I think people would be very generous when they go up there for that. What time of year does that take place?
Well, it's in December in central to northern Maine, but I don't want anyone to be dissuaded from checking it out. I did do it in 2018, and at the start the temperature was -1, but I did it again this past year, and it was like 40 degrees and very pleasant. So you don't know what you're going to get.
It's a box of chocolates.
As runners, do you do any sort of cross training, and is there an endurance sport you're looking to get into as you get older?
No. Just being honest, I'm a purist. I spent many years in college injured and having to cross train in aqua jogging in the pool, elliptical, and it's just miserable. So I when I get hurt, I choose to relax and do nothing. That's rare, but that's just me. But Dan,
Jordan's advice is usually good. I'm not going to follow him here.
Thank you.
I do some strength training, go to the gym a couple times a week and focus on the muscle groups that I think are going to help and prevent injury, especially as I get older. Unfortunately, I'm turning 43 in a couple of months.
You're still a young pup.
For now. And then I've done a little cycling too, and some gravel riding. I did my first cyclocross race this past year, which is super fun.
Which one did you do?
The Beverly Grand Prix, I think it's called.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent race.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, way harder than it looked.
Full throttle
right
from the start.
I thought, hey, I'm in shape. I've got fitness. I can do this. And I was wrong.
Yeah, that's a great. But there's a lot of similarities, I would say, to gravel and some of the things on the run side. It's very communal and camaraderie and full gas from the start. So that's fun. That's exciting that you got to do. Any events on your bucket lists that you'd like to do in New England, Dan?
Any like epic trail runs like the VT50?
So I will say that over the past couple of years, once a year, there's a small group of us that'll go and do something sort of trail running or hiking related. And a few years ago, we decided, all right, we're going to do the Pemi Loop. We're going to do it in a day and just see how fast we can do it. Very hard. The next year, we did the Presidential Traverse. In doing these things, as hard as they are, you kind of feel good about the time you get, but then you see, Andrew Drummond or someone like that does it in half the time, and it just seems, impossible.
Which did you find harder, the Pemi or the Prezi?
This is a subject of a lot of debate, even within the group. I thought Pemi was a lot more difficult. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think I was in the minority.
So I've done the Presidential Traverse, and that was, a real ball breaker. I did not complete the Pemi Loop. I think I bailed around Lafayette.
Well, we had to do it twice. I left this out. The first time we failed miserably. We went back the next year and were able to do it, but it's hard.
I have to get back up on the Pemi because I have one 4,000 footer left out of the 48, and it's West Bond, which is part of the Bond Cliffs. And I got to find myself back there. It's a 17-mile hike in and out. So looking for anybody who wants to join me. Eric?
Hey, you know I'm game. I've taken you up a couple 4,000 footers, and we just got to find the right day and time, and I'll help you get that last one knocked off. So
Nice. New England is the greatest region in the U.S. for endurance sports. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think it's because we've got everything. We've got the ocean, we've got mountains, we've got forests, we've got every kind of weather that you could want. You just got to wait around for the right season. So I think for those reasons, you get people who enjoy those things.
A lot of variety. What about you, Jordan?
I'd agree. I think there's a grittiness, there's a toughness that comes with New Englanders. Again, not being a native New Englander, I'm soft in the winter. I grew up in Northern California, and I'm not cut out for certain weather conditions. But I find it that those that grew up here are much more hardcore and enduring than I am. So yeah, I can see that there's just a natural toughness that comes with having grown up and living in New England.
Yeah, so having been from California, do you agree with our statement of fact?
I'll give it to you guys.
Thank you.
The consequence is you're either going to get the cookie boxes or not the cookie boxes if you agree or don't disagree with that statement. So, but Dan and Jordan, thank you so much for being guests. You are the first two-person guest team. So hopefully it sounded all right on the technical side.
I think so.
As we figure all this out. But no, we really appreciate you coming in and talking about running. Nothing, as I like to say, nothing pairs better with a liter of Notch beer than some cookies. And we're really excited to each give you a nice assortment of baked goods from Lark Fine Foods, which is one of our sponsors. They are a 100% woman-owned specialty food company baking delicious small batch cookies inspired by grown-up consumers with sophisticated tastes. I can see clearly the two of you are both very sophisticated. So I hope that you will enjoy those cookies. We've done some plugs. What would you guys like to plug? I'll start with you, Jordan.
I'd like to just plug Notch and their delicious beers that keep us fueled. We actually brought you guys some gifts.
Oh, you're kidding.
Okay.
So
it's Friday
we
night.
have
Nice.
couple 6-packs here. We have the Left of the Dial IPA, and we also have the Notch Pills. So here are a couple 6-packs.
I like this
so much.
trend. I like this trend of guests bringing us gifts.
So first to plug Notch, second, I guess, to plug Carhu, the footwear brand. That's actually sort of the team is powered by Carhu in terms of the singlets that they wear and that they race in. But other than that, have Dan.
Yeah, I have no other brands to plug, but I would encourage people to come out to one of those casual Notch runs if they think they might want to check it out. Over the past 7 years or so, we've had close to 3,000 people come out for them. We track all the numbers. We know that in total we've run about 110 million meters.
Wow,
which is quite a bit.
And that's a 1-to-1 liter and to meter, correct? That you guys have consumed, or is that?
Council has instructed me not to agree to that statement, but you can consume a liter to refuel. We've got some free pretzel bites, and it's a good time with friendly people.
That sounds great. So remind everybody, what's the best night to come out and learn about Notch?
Either show up to the Salem Brewery at 6:30 on Wednesdays, or head down to Brighton if you're based in the city. Thursdays at 7:00.
Excellent. I love that you guys exist. So thanks, everybody, for listening to the New England Endurance Podcast, showcasing the vibrant endurance community of New England. And for those who want to learn more about Notch or the sponsors or the events, we'll tag you in the Instagram post at New England Endurance. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, Apple, and Google. And until next time, keep pushing your limits, drop some hammers, and get out there and explore New England. Thank you.